If your child often wakes in the night with a loud, terrifying scream, you may think a nightmare is to blame. But a child who doesn't remember the incident in the morning could be one of the 3 to 6% of kids who have night terrors, also called sleep terrors. What causes night terrors? The cause of night terrors is not fully understood. They usually happen when children enter a very deep sleep, known as stage 4 sleep, Dingfelder says. As the brain matures, this shift becomes smoother, she says. However, for children who continue to experience the terrors, they frequently are triggered by increased stress, changes in routine, foods, or illnesses, says Dingfelder. It is thought that these types of situations cause a child to spend more time in deep sleep, she says. Night terrors generally peak between 3 and 5 years of age. Night terrors or nightmares, what's the difference? Night terrors are generally distinguishable from bad dreams by the physiological body response shown by the child, says Rebecca Dingfelder, Ph.D., Associate Professor at the Duke Child and Family Study Center in Durham, North Carolina. When awoken from a night terror, a child will typically display a very rapid heart rate, sweating, pale complexion, and crying. It is also common for the child to startle from a night terror with a very fearful scream. Dingfelder adds that with night terrors, the child is still sleeping even though his or her eyes are open, similar to when people sleepwalk. This means that the child will not be able to talk about the experience and will go back to a quiet sleep easily. There are clear differences to help you distinguish a nightmare from a night terror. If your child is having a nightmare, Dingfelder says, he or she will frequently wake up crying, but without the physiological response. After a nightmare, children will be able to share some part of their dream with their parents when asked, notes Dingfelder. Additionally, children who have nightmares might have a hard time going back to sleep or will want you to stay and comfort them. The timing of night terrors also differs from nightmares. Night terrors often occur shortly after the child goes to sleep, while bad dreams occur later in the night or early morning, Dingfelder says. How to handle night terrors? Although it can be hard to watch your child scream and cry, you should stay calm, Dingfelder advises. The best approach to calm children following a night terror is to just sit with them and speak in a calming voice until they settle down, she says. Since they are still asleep, trying to have a conversation or ask what is wrong will not typically get a helpful response. You might just let the night terror subside on its own, since there's no need to wake up your child. Andrea Bledsoe, a mother of 2 in Keswick, VA, found this out before she knew what night terrors were. My now 8-year-old daughter Emily had night terrors when she was around 3 years old, Bledsoe says. One night she woke up in the middle of the night screaming. I went into her room to see what was wrong. I didn't realize she wasn't really awake, and in the process of checking up on her, I woke her up. She wasn't completely aware of what was going on, but she acted like she was very angry at me, Bledsoe continues. She just kept screaming and didn't want me near her. My husband came in, but neither of us could calm her down. When our cat walked in, I picked him up and sat there with him in my lap, petting him. Emily came over and started petting the cat, and that calmed her down. We put her back to bed and the next morning she didn't remember any of it. I mentioned it to our pediatrician because it seemed so strange. That conversation with the pediatrician was the first time Bledsoe heard the term night terrors. He said the night terror would go away on its own while Emily slept, and that she wouldn't remember a thing in the morning, she says. That certainly appeared to be the case with her. We didn't forget it so easily, though. Tips to prevent night terrors. You might be able to prevent night terrors by keeping your child on a regular sleep schedule, making sure your child does not become overtired, reducing your child's stress. The American Academy of Family Physicians suggests that parents whose children have night terrors or sleepwalking episodes take safety precautions, including putting a toddler gate at stairways and doorways and not allowing them to sleep in bunk beds. And remember, this is a phase of childhood and eventually will pass.